All right, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Toon podcast. We are the Southern Hemisphere's biggest, best, and only podcast dedicated all things Newcastle United. Joining me as we review the sensational 4-1 demolition of PSG, I have Dimi down in Melbourne. How are you doing, mate?
Unbelievable, Craigie. It's very hard to put into words. We'll try to put into words tonight what's happened this morning, our time, but it's an amazing feeling. It's only one game. It's still only the second match day of the group stage, but it feels like a big moment for us. And from where we've come, it's an amazing feeling to get that result this morning.
It's absolutely sensational, genuinely breathtaking. 90 minutes worth of football. We will try and break it down the best we can, in only the best way we know how to do. We will go through the goals. We will go through match stats. And also, we will show you the league table at the end as well, because that is just pure filth for what we're going to show you on that one. But before we do dive into this review, please, if you don't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are this close to getting 1,500 subscribers. So if you don't already, please do so. Hit that like button, drop us a comment below. And if you are listening on the audio channels, please give us a 5-star review on there. Leave a comment, drop us a question, and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can. But Dimi, we'll dive straight into this. We're going to go straight into the lineups. So Newcastle being the home team, you go first, and pretty much a similar lineup to the Burnley game with Pope in goal, Trippier, Lascelles, Schar, and Burn across the back. Bruno G, Longstaff, Tonali, Almiron, Gordon, and Isak up top. What did you make of that starting 11, and was it what you expected?
It was. I thought that Tonali would be starting the Champions League game. He started the Milan game. I thought he would come in for Anderson. Not that Anderson has done anything wrong in his appearances. I think he's been quite good in the Premier League, but Champions League for me is a different level. And Tonali is probably the only one we've got in that lineup besides Trippier who has Champions League experience. I mean, last year he made the semi-final with Milan, so that was an expected change for me, and it was good to see as well that we had Isaac still up there because there was rumours that he was a bit sore from the weekend, and there was a couple of others we thought may not make the game. So it was good that we had that that consistency from the weekend, and obviously we do have a few injuries, so we didn't have too much on the bench, to be honest. But it was good to see Tonali for me start and give us that experience in the middle.
Yeah, it was experience you really needed against a well-experienced PSG team. They are frequent flyers in the Champions League, as you all know. But our bench, 2 keepers, just gives an idea of how thin that bench was. Dubravka, Karius, then it was Dummett, Target, Hall, Livramento, Murphy, Anderson, and Miggy. Now, what I was going to point out with that bench and starting 11, you've got we've got Longstaff, we've got Burn, we've also got Dummett, Hall, Murphy, Anderson, and Miggy, who are all either lifelong Newcastle fans or from the area as well. How good is it to see a team chock full of Geordies or fans of the club from such a young age?
It's fantastic. I mean, that's what every fan wants. They want a local lad to come into the team and be a big part of the team and be an important part of the team. I mean, we had 2 local lads score this morning, which was ridiculous, and probably the last 2 players you'd think were going to score a goal scored the goal, and it's great to see because they have got that passion that, not that the other players don't, but they've got that drive and that real desire to give absolutely everything at St James's Park, and sometimes small details define these games, and if you've got that sort of character in the team, it can take you a long way. So yeah, it's great to see, and obviously these guys aren't just bit part players too. I mean, Burns a regular starter, and Longy, we've seen how important he is in the 11. So yeah, it's great to see that there's a local element coming through back through the lineup.
Now, with the players available to Eddie, is that the starting 11 you would have went with, or was there any changes you would have made?
Yeah, that was 100% the 11 I would have gone with. I mean, there's probably 3 or 4 players, starting players who are injured at the moment who may have been in that team, but with what's available, and when we knew that Botman wasn't going to make the game and Joe Linton wasn't going to make the game, Wilson we thought was a chance, but given that he wasn't 100% fit, I didn't think he was going to start the game. So it was probably as best as we could pick for this morning, and yeah, no real obvious surprises.
We'll move on to the PSG team now. I'll let you go through this one. I've got no chance of pronouncing half of these. I'll let you do your worst.
No problem. So in goals, I had Donnarumma. Across the back four, it was Hakimi, Marquinhos, Skriniar, and Lucas Hernandez. The midfield read Zaire Emery, Ugarte, and Dembele. Now, Dembele didn't really play midfield. It was more a 4-2-4 formation, but Dembele was listed as a midfielder. And then up front, Colomwani, Mbappe, and Ramos. Ramos obviously is the bloke that we were linked with pretty heavily, I think, maybe 12 months ago from Benfica. So that's how highly he's rated. He's starting now for Paris Saint-Germain. So obviously there's one name on that team sheet that everyone will look at. It's Mbappe. He's probably arguably the best player in the world and has achieved a lot already in his young career. But if you look at that lineup from what was named this morning, it screamed to me that Paris came here thinking Newcastle's a cute little team, but we can just batter these guys, and we're not going to pay them any respect. We're going to play 4 attackers, and we're going to have a real crack. And Dembele, Mbappe, Moani, and Ramos don't give you much defensively. So playing those 4 in that lineup was a big bold call by Luis Enrique, and thankfully for us, it definitely backfired.
Yeah, it absolutely did. So kickoff times, it was 5 in the morning for myself and everyone else here in Queensland, and it was 6 o'clock for yourself, Bobby, and Keegan. And were you up early trying to soak in some of the atmosphere for the game? I set my alarm a little bit earlier than normal because I wanted to see the pre-match build-up and everything like that as well, see what more flags had to offer. Because the coverage for us only really started until, 5 minutes before kickoff, which I was a little bit peeved off about, to be honest.
Yeah, we weren't the main game on the channel that we watch the game here in Australia, Stan Sport. We weren't the main game where they have the studio coverage of pre-game and crossing to commentators at the game. So yeah, the coverage only started probably 8 or 9 minutes, maybe even less before the game. I was up at 5:30. I wanted to give myself some time to wake up and to just get my thoughts together before the game and get the excitement going. And yeah, I mean, the war flags display. I mean, how good was that display? It was unbelievable. The flags, the tifo, the banner. It was amazing. And I mean, they cease to amaze every time. War flags. They really raise the game every single time. And credit to those boys and girls. They do a fantastic job. And yeah, the atmosphere and the entrance for the players would have been something to behold.
Yeah, well, it was sensational, absolutely sensational. But then kickoff came about, and PSG probably had the first early chance, you'd probably say, with Dembele. I think it was maybe 4 or 5 minutes on the clock, and he just had a shot across goal. It didn't hit target, and Pope wasn't really in trouble effectively as it went wide, flashed across his goal from right to left, I believe it was. But those early signings are there where you were thinking this could potentially be a long night for Newcastle if it continues like this? Or were you thinking PSG were always going to start and we were just going to feel our way into the game?
Yeah, it was interesting. I thought I was a little bit concerned early. I mean, very early in the first 4 or 5 minutes, because I thought Dembele was going to give Dan Burn a real hard time. He's one of those players when he's on, he's unplayable. He's world class. He goes left, he goes right. He's a very skillful player, but he's also one of those players who, when he's not on, he looks absolutely trash. And he had that early chance. I mean, he could easily have put that away, and maybe it's 1-0 PSG, and maybe we're talking about a completely different game. But the concern for me early was the transition. I thought we were trying to press them, which was fantastic, and we'll talk about how well our press was. But I was concerned that if they did play through, they started with 4 attackers, so it was virtually going to be 4-3 or 4-4, and with their quality and pace, that is concerning. So yeah, the early transition moments and the Dembele matchup on Burn for me was the initial worry that I saw from the game.
Yeah, Dembele's got pace to burn. Dan Burn unfortunately doesn't, but he done a cracking job throughout the 90 minutes, I'd say. Limited to that one chance in the first, and we'll get on to the chance he had in the second. Apart from that, didn't really do much. But game started going on. There was a few nervy, sloppy passes from both teams, mainly from us. I think our pass completion was a bit subpar from what we normally were. Again, whether it was pre-match nerves, first Champions League game at St James's in 20 years, which you can understand because, again, there was the pre-match nerves and the in-game nerves for the final back in February. So similar type of field, similar type of build-up, I'd imagine, in and around the city with the anticipation of it. So a few little stray passes early on can easily be forgiven. But we started getting a bit of a rhythm together. We got a few passes going, and we started trying to play through their midfield. And as you mentioned in the formation, they literally had two in the middle. And that was just perfect for the likes of Bruno, Tonali, and Longstaff to do what they need to do.
Absolutely. I mean, Bruno, for me, he was sensational this morning, and he just had acres of space. And for whatever reason, they didn't think that our midfield deserved the respect. And the way we played and the way we pressed, we really turned the ball over in fantastic areas. And because we turned the ball over so high, it's sort of that four attackers that they had were sort of out of the game, and we're virtually playing man on man, 4-on-4, 5-on-5 in our attacking half. So it was good work by Eddie to get the boys to press in the right areas, and naive from PSG to think that they could outmatch us in the midfield with one less player. And mind you, the two players that PSG did have in the midfield, or two of the three, are very young players. One of them, that Emery lad, I think he's 17 years old. It was either his first or his second start for Paris Saint-Germain. So it's a big ask for that young kid to sort of own the midfield against Bruno, Tonali, and Longstaff, who obviously aren't world beaters or world-class players. You can argue they're world-class players, but in terms of the experience that they've had in European and world football, but it is a big ask for a 17-year-old kid to, away from home, do that. Fair play, that worked for us, but yeah, the midfield for me was a big win early in terms of how we were pressing and where we were winning the ball against them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to a few stray shots from Newcastle as well. One or two little stingers had done a rummer. But then come the 17th minute, the press is on. We are on the edge of PSG's box. I can't remember who tries to make a little dink pass over our midfield. Marquinhos, yep, tries to do a little dink pass. Bruno cuts it out. Now, I don't know how many times you watch your goals back, but I've watched them a million times already today, as pretty much everybody else has. But I don't know whether Bruno actually means to head it in the direction of Isak. Because if he does, his reaction and the ability to do so split second is superb. Because he had a defender either side and the ball could have went anywhere. But it went straight to Isak, turns, gets a shot away. It was probably more central than Isak would have liked. So Donnarumma got a comfortable save on that one, but he palmed it straight to Miggy. And Miggy does what Miggy does best at the minute. And whoever was going to score our first goal in terms of redemption and of where this club has come in 2 years and what players have come along in 2 years, it's probably only fitting for Miggy to score that first goal, you reckon?
Absolutely. I mean, a year and a half ago, we probably all thought he's got no place in the team. He'd be lucky to be in the first 11. He'd probably be a bench player. If not, we'll sell him and make money, whatever we can get off him. But his transformation, obviously, he started the season last year. He was scoring goals from everywhere. I think he had 8 and 8 at one point, and he started a little slower this year, but he's now got 3 and 3, and you can just tell when Miggy's in form and in confident. He opens his body up beautifully from that right hand side, and as the ball rolled to him from Donnarumma, I don't know what you thought, Craigie, but I thought as soon as he's lining that up, I thought this is going to be a goal every day.
Yeah,
the form that Miggy's in and the way he's opened his body up, it just smacked of a typical goal that Miggy has been scoring for us in the last 12 to 18 months. And you're right, fair play to him. He's come a really long way, and he ended up getting, I think, the man of the match from the UEFA people. So fantastic for him, and what a moment, what a reaction, and 1-0 up.
And I love the celebration as well. So he does his usual knee slide into the corner. He then tries to climb onto the advertising bollard, and everybody's just charging forward. He can't get on. He's then swamped by everybody as well. And it was just utter chaos. But we talked before we came on air here. the reaction from the fans when each of the goals went in. We'll get to each goal, but the reaction of that one there was almost like a split second from when the ball hit the back of the net to the fans celebrating. Hold on, have we just scored a goal? And then the stadiums went into an eruption of noise. Effectively, it was a cauldron of symphony of just explosive excitement. I mean, when that first goal went in, did you expect the noise to be like? I know we've all heard and seen St James's Park ourselves, but that was just an epic sound of proportional qualities of that one. It was mint.
I think it was not the disbelief, probably not the right word, but the realization that we just scored a Champions League goal at St James's Park against one of the best teams in Europe, and I think that outpouring of emotion was sort of like, oh my god, what is going on? Have we just scored this goal? Yes, we have. This is ridiculous, and I think that's what every Newcastle fan felt, whether they were in the ground or watching like we were all the way over here in Australia. It was a moment of sheer joy and sheer just relief, not relief, but disbelief that we've scored a Champions League goal. I keep saying it. It's weird that we're playing Champions League football. I just don't associate Champions League football with Newcastle. We haven't for a very long time, and the fact we're in the Champions League, we're not only competing, we're getting results now, and we're scoring goals. It's just crazy. But yeah, the look on the faces of some of the fans in the stadium was sheer joy and sheer disbelief at the same time.
It was superb. Like I don't think I couldn't have picked a better first goal scorer for that goal. But the first half continues to go on. Again, we still get the press on. And I love the fact that Bruno, Gordon, Isak, every time they got a tackle in or put it out for a throw-in, corner or whatever, they were celebrating like they scored a goal as well. Bruno with his big fist pumps and everything, Gordon trying to jeer up the crowd. It's mint because again, it just shows the involvement the players have with the crowd. That connection, which was never there for a good number of years, is back, and it's back better than ever.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a bit of a Bruno trademark, I think, last year when he used to do that when he'd make a late tackle and go bonkers. But I think he's been doing it a lot more, and Gordon's getting involved now, and Isak's getting involved, and you can just tell the players feed off the crowd's excitement and the crowd's energy, and it's vice versa. And now that we've got one harmonious club from top to bottom, and everyone's sort of rowing in the same direction, it's amazing what that can do for the players and what energy it can give the players on a night like this. When, let's be honest, player for player, if you line the teams up, we're probably not on Paris Saint-Germain's level, but when you have little things like this, that the energy that the crowd, 50,000 Geordies give you, it makes you sort of seem invincible, and that's what it seemed like. Every time we were doing one of those tackles, the energy was lifting in the stadium, and you could tell the players on the pitch were lifting with their energy. It was unbelievable to see that sort of harmonious reaction from everyone.
Yeah, it was genuinely brilliant. There was one moment in the first half, which I can't remember happened before or after the second goal, which again we'll get to very shortly. Isak decided to rugby tackle. I think it was maybe Hakimi. I'm not too sure who it was. But he went down with a head injury, and he had a cut on his head, obviously. There was a bit of blood trickling down. He got the iconic Schar bandage wrapped around his head and just carried on like the war horse that he is. But when he went down, and he was down for a good number of minutes, we were thinking, oh, Jesus Christ, Wilson's a bit crocked. Isak, he could be concussion at least, yeah, maybe, because obviously it's a head injury. That's the first thing you think of these days.
Yeah.
That to me had a little bit worried. I don't know about you.
Absolutely. I mean, we didn't have any strikers on the bench, so any injury to Isak was going to be disastrous for us. So thank goodness it was, I can say, only a cut. It probably was very painful, and probably not the cleanest challenge that he'll ever face. But thankfully he was able to come back on. It wasn't any concussion or anything like that. And yeah, we definitely needed him, despite the fact that he didn't score tonight. He still worked as hard as ever, and he led that press from the front. So very important that he wasn't going to go off concussed.
Yeah, it was. I'm so glad he managed to continue on. And then we get to the 39th minute. And this is sheer Geordie joy from the boy from Blythe. But he had to wait a little while to get his goal, didn't he? Where the way the VAR check was going on. I don't know about you, but as soon as I seen that side angle that I seen Bruno was on, I'm like, right, goal has to be given. They showed the image of the ball being a good 5-6 inches over the line, so there's
Yeah.
no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But Dan Burn, he knew straight away that he had scored. But the build-up play into that goal, when Tonali, he knew there was nothing on, so he played it back to Bruno, who took the shot, and then got the crossover to Dan
Yep.
Burn, I think it was. And then
Yep.
Dan
Yep.
Burn jumped up like he's never jumped up before. He had hang
Yeah.
time that Michael Jordan would have been proud of on that one. And he smashed that ball. How Donnarumma managed to actually get his hands to it, I've not a clue. But it
Fair
was
play.
actually a very, very good save, albeit it was
Yeah.
behind the line. But sheer Geordie delight from that boy from Blythe. And no one's going to be able to take that goal away from him. He's done something myself, yourself, every other Newcastle fan in the world has ever dreamt of. Scored a goal in the Champions League for Newcastle United. And God knows what emotions were running through his body, because I was close to tears for him. God knows what you were like.
Oh, mate, it was that suspended animation. I feel like it's just us every time we score a goal and there's a VAR check. It seems like they go through every single millisecond of attack before our goal, and they try to find every possible angle where we've scored that they'll disallow it. It seems, I don't know, maybe it happens everywhere, but it seems like every time we score a goal that goes to VAR, the check goes on for 5 minutes. They're looking at 50 different angles, and it just seems like they want to disallow a goal. Maybe that's just us being biased, but I just want to mention on the build-up as well, it was Trippier's fantastic ball around the back of
Yeah.
the Paris left back to put Miggy in initially, who won the foul just outside the box. So fair play to Trippier. It was a wonderful pass. Miggy, as he usually does, drives towards the box, wins the foul. And then you're right, the intelligence of Bruno there, not to smash it up, and he saw Big Dan Burn at the back post, just to sort of chip it into the back post and said, "Go and attack that ball." And boy, did he attack that ball! I mean, he was never going to get beaten in the air there, and he used every bit of his 6'7" frame and said, "No one else is going to get this header. I'm going to absolutely leather it with my head." And he still saved it, Donnarumma, but he was 5 meters behind the line, so it didn't matter. But yeah, it was an unbelievable moment. Initially, when the replay was shown, for me, the first replay shot looked like Bruno may have been offside. I
Mm-hmm.
thought they didn't really slow it down to see that the defender was keeping him on. So initially, I thought, oh, this could be offside. As you're right, as soon as they showed that replay and he wasn't offside, there was nothing else that could disallow it. So I'm not sure what they were looking at after that, but it was a big build-up, and maybe Dan Burn would probably have preferred no VAR review so he could just react spontaneously in the moment. But
Yeah.
I don't think we can now. He got to react again and celebrate sort of twice, and the goal was given, and just cue the absolute delirium. 2-0 against PSG with the big boy from Blythe scoring at the back post. It was, stuff dreams are made of, like you said.
He only scores in big games, doesn't he?
Oh, jeez. He knows when to score him. I mean,
He does.
for a man his height, you'd think he'd be dominating the air every week in the box, but he hasn't. Historically, he hasn't. I mean, he scored a goal against Sheffield United with his head, and that was great to see that he could score with his head, and he scored another one now. Maybe he's going to start scoring a lot more from set pieces. Let's hope so. But you're right. Every goal he's scored for us so far. I mean, the Brighton one was huge at the end of the last season. The
Yeah.
cup goal against Leicester, and now this morning he definitely chooses his moments well.
He really does. And then pretty much the end of the first half fizzled out. We go in 2-0 at half time. The crowd, standing ovation for the players walking off the pitch. Worth every second they got of that. I think the players lapped it up as they walked off as well. Now, as half time goes through, and it didn't even show us any replays or any halftime match analysis or anything like that. We just got a splash screen of some of the stats or whatever. So I'm thinking in the back of my mind, we're 2-0 up here. This next goal that comes is going to be so crucial to how this game turns out now. If we get the third, it's pretty much curtains. If they get it and bring it back to 2-1 early in the second half, it could be a very long 45 minutes for her. And I was thinking, God, just nick an early goal in that second half and see what happens from there. Then the rest could just be plain sailing. in a few minutes into the first half, and it was another cracking ball from Trips, played in Sean Longstaff, and he has a low shot. I think he tried to go across Donnarumma's
did.
goal, but ended up, I think, going in off his heel or his inner calf or something like that, whatever it was. Bounces up into the roof of the net at the Gallagher end. He runs away, right arm in the air, full on Shearer celebration. Shearer's in the crowd. He obviously would have seen that. He would have loved that. Everybody else loved that. Fans go absolutely batshit crazy. And we're 3-0 up against PSG. I mean, sum your emotions up when that ball hit the back net, because again, it's another Geordie lad.
At that point, I had to smack myself and think, what's going on here? This can't be right. Are we sure we're watching Newcastle? Are we sure this game has been played at St James's? Is this a dream? Are they someone else in disguise, or is even goal 3, whatever it is, that movie chain that had that young lad playing for Newcastle United? Is this a movie? Is this a Hollywood script? Because 3-0 up, 2-0 up was hard enough to sort of comprehend at halftime. And you're right, we're thinking 2-0, very dangerous scoreline. I mean, as an Australian football fan, 2-0 is a notorious scoreline. We've got knocked out of the World Cup qualifying once, being 2-0 up with 20 minutes to go. So 2-0 is a very dangerous scoreline, and we did probably need a third goal to sort of kill that hope off. And the fact that it wasn't even the early goal, the fact that it was Longstaff as well, another Geordie lad to score in front of the Gallagher end, it's just ridiculous. I mean, who would have predicted we're 3 up after 50 minutes with Dan Burns scoring a towering header at the back post, and then Sean Longstaff whacking one in off the keeper's hand, but who cares? They'll count. And then doing the Shearer celebration into the Gallagher end. I mean, there's just you just can't make it up. Could you believe your eyes? Could you believe your eyes, Craigie?
No, absolutely not. I was like, this doesn't happen in Newcastle United. We don't go 3-0 up against the French champions. We don't go 3
let alone
against
anyone. Let alone anyone. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, team has got Mbappe, Hakimi, Donnarumma. They're all technically world-class players. I mean, Mbappe is probably above world class. He's in that bracket with Haaland, that type of thing. And it's just sensational. And yeah, in Longstaff, he celebrated that goal as if it meant exactly the same as what it did to me and you and everybody else watching the game. It was just, it was superb. And we're 3-0 up, 50 minutes on the clock. And then we are pretty much cruising, to be honest. We let them have a good spell of possession, but they didn't really do much with it within the first half. But then 6 minutes later, they get a little dink ball in. I can't remember who done the little dink. I think it was Zaire Emery, that young 17-year-old, I think he said he is.
Yep.
Little dink pass over the defense, and Hernandez just a little glance and header, just enough to push it past Pope, and it's suddenly 3-1. When that goal went in, were you thinking, oh no, this could be tight? Could be a very nervy end to the game. Thinking, no, we're 3-1 up, we're cruising. We don't throw away 3-0 leads anymore. We're not that old Newcastle United. We're a new, much improved Newcastle United.
It is hard to take that old Newcastle United out of your head, because you're just used to so much rubbish and so much pain that you're right. We're not used to any sort of success, good team, good football, really anything good to happen. It doesn't really happen to us. So when the goal went in, I wasn't sort of worried, because they weren't dominating. They were dominating the ball, but they weren't battering our goal and looking like they were going to get on a run. But in the back of your mind, 3-1, you're thinking, okay, it's back to a 2-goal game. We're back to that same scenario that we talked about before. Whereas a two-goal lead sounds great, but if Paris get the next one and it's 3-2, all of a sudden it's a 1-goal game, and they've now got 2 in a row, and all of a sudden then the crowd gets nervous, the players get nervous, and that's where, when we haven't been in these situations, who knows how we react to it. So that was the thought in the back of my mind. And I thought, as soon as they scored that first goal to come back to 3-1, I thought we really needed to not completely take our foot off the pedal in terms of attacking wise, but we really had to be smart in how we attacked and not give any sort of any sort of light or confidence to Paris that they could come back into the game.
Yeah. I mean, shortly after they scored, I think we took Tonali off around about maybe the hour mark, I
Yep.
think it was.
Correct.
He put in a hell of a shift. There was a few
He
people
did.
saying he didn't play as well as a lot of people think he did. But I thought he put in one hell of a graft on that one. Did you?
Yeah, he worked his ass off. I mean, I can't remember how many times he won the ball off opponent, but I thought his pressure off the ball was fantastic. Yes, his passing sometimes wasn't as crisp, but I think the whole team, our passing was a little bit off. And Eddie even mentioned that post game that he wasn't too happy with the way we kept the ball and we passed the ball. But I thought his work rate and effort and drive to lead that press forward, I think was fantastic. And I think it's another good sign that him and Bruno got another hour together, and it looked like it's something that worked, and it's something we need to persist with. I mean, Tonali is a quality player. You don't spend 70 odd million on someone for nothing. He's a quality player. He's already got a great pedigree for someone so young, and I think the more games we give him, it's clear at the moment he probably can't give us 90 minutes a week, which is fine. We can get 60 or 70 out of him, and that's fine. But yeah, I thought he was really good in terms of his stuff off the ball and defensively, and sort of led that press really well in the front half.
And on came Elliot Anderson, who is 20 years old. Last Champions League game he played was 20 years ago. He would have literally just been fresh in nappies the last time we played in that game, and now he's coming on representing the club he loves. And he actually had some good little spells with the ball, a few neat little
He did.
dribbles, playing out wide on the left where he spent most of the game. And yeah, he's definitely looking a lot more assured now because he's getting a lot more game time than what he did last season. I thought Elliot Anderson had a cracking 25 minutes, half an hour, however long he was on for. And also, Miggy went off on 71 minutes. Looked like he picked up a little bit of a knock close to the touchline, and he was replaced very shortly by Murphy.
Murph.
Yeah, on 71 minutes. Murphy, he didn't really have much time to impact the game, but as we'll find out in, I think it was the 91st minute, 93rd minute, whatever it was, he had a slight little hand in the fourth goal. But we're going to get to that as the minutes tick on. But PSG started dominating possession, which I think we kind of expected them to do so, to be honest. But they weren't doing anything with it. They were shots from distance. Yes, they had the odd corner, that type of thing. They had one good opportunity through Dembele, where he turned burn and he stung the palms of Nick Pope. But apart from that, that was their only real clear-cut chance that I can remember. I don't know if you can pinpoint anymore.
There was one more that probably should have been a chance, and I've got to give a shout out to my mate Jamal Lascelles. I've been very hard on him, and I think
I was going to get him.
he was superb this morning, and he's been great for the last couple of games. But there was one moment where I think the long ball came in, and Dembele got in behind Burn, and he was flashing. It looked like he was through one-on-one, and Lascelles, I don't know how he made up the ground, but he made up the ground and sort of gave Dembele a slight shoulder-to-shoulder shove just as about to shoot, and sort of put him off balance, and the ball sort of trickled wide without any danger to the goal. But that could have been a real big chance because Dembele, like we said, is rapid, quick, and he had turned Burn, and thank goodness Lascelles had that pace to get back. I mean, obviously we all want Botman to play, but if Botman's in that position, I don't think Botman's getting back to catch Dembele. So Lascelles, who's got probably a little bit extra pace than Big Botman, probably saved the day there. And yeah, like I said, fair play to him. He was fantastic, and it was a crucial intervention.
And we start getting like the 80 plus minutes and so. And I was starting to think, you know what? We've got this in the bag now. We've got the 3 points. We're going to win our first home game at St. James's Park in the Champions League in 20 years' time. Everybody that written us off basically said it's the group of death. We're going to get nowhere in this league. We'll be lucky to score a goal, let alone get a point, that type of thing. And I was thinking, 3-1, we've actually been relatively comfortable considering we haven't had that much of the ball. We've limited some of the best players in the world to half chances at best. They scored a decent goal, in all fairness, but they never really scored like getting back into the game that people would have thought they would have done. And then we started cruising forward again as it got into the 90th minute. ball was down the left-hand side with Fabian Schar, who I think he gets a nice little tackle on, again, I can't remember who the PSG player was.
Ramos. It was Ramos.
Ramos, there we go. Yeah, he takes off Ramos. Well-timed tackle. He obviously wins the ball. Takes it a little bit towards the middle, gives it to Murphy. Murphy gives a little bit of a layoff, and then Fabian Schar does what Fabian Schar does and scores a thunder bastard, because that's pretty much the only way you can describe his goals. He only ever scores thunder bastards, does he?
He does.
And considering he was off balance as well when he took that shot because he fell out, the way he bent it around the keeper, so he had to get that extra stretch on and find that top corner in the 91st minute. I genuinely made noises that I didn't know my body could make, and I'm pretty sure I woke up the next door neighbor's dog and their dogs, whatever, going around it. It was incredible. I've only got low ceilings here. I'm only 5'2". I nearly went through the bastard roof when that goal went in. It was genuinely amazing. He runs away, does his little twirly hand celebration thing, as if, yeah, I just do this type of thing weekly. No real biggie for me. But he's another player as well, again, that's been there with the club through the very, very dark times. And it just shows how far these players have come along and how good of a job Eddie's done with three of these players that were before the takeover. But when that ball hit the back of the net, and I'd imagine your smile was as wide as the time as well. Everybody's would have been. Did you think, did that just happen? Has everything just been a dream, and that's like the pinnacle of this dream? Because that's exactly how I thought.
Yeah, I did the same as you. I was lucky enough the missus had already gone to work, so I could scream relentlessly. So that was no problem in my house. But it was ridiculous. I mean, I think he's got 4 or 5 of those shots that either go in or hit the crossbar a year, Schar, and he's just got something about him where he knows how to hit them from outside the box. But the fact he was slipping over as well, and he still curled it top bins against a world-class goalkeeper who is 6'5", who's a big boy, and he couldn't get up there to save that shot. I mean, it's ridiculous. When that goes in, you're thinking, this is now too much. Now it's too much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fair. We've scored 3 goals against Paris. 2 local lads have scored. We're going to win the game. It's 90th minute. We're cruising along, and then Shar's got the audacity to first of all be 40 yards from goal to win the ball back off their striker. Not sure what he's doing there, but he's still getting the press on and he's winning the ball back. And then not only wins the ball back, he's asking for the 1-2 outside the box when probably Eddie Howe's thinking, just keep the ball, boys. Let's just slow the game down, keep the ball. And Shar's like, I'm going to score this. And my goodness gracious me, an unbelievable goal, an unbelievable moment. It just topped off a magical evening that I'm sure that we'll be talking about for months and years to come. And in 15, 20, 25 years' time, they'll be still talking about that Schar goal and this 4-1 result. And it was, yeah, it's we keep saying it, but it's stuff dreams are made of. I mean, no one in their wildest dreams thought that tonight was going to, or this morning was going to end how it was going to end. And the fact it ended with an absolute thunder bastard, like you said, from Schar in the Gallagher end, it's wild.
It genuinely was, and again, another player who thoroughly deserves that goal. And all the players will get all the plaudits they deserve, because there was not one man who was better than each other on that field. Every man on that pitch deserves a 10 out of 10 rating, because they all put in one hell of a shift. But one man I'm going to come back to, you mentioned him just a few moments ago, who's come out from the cold, and I know you're obviously a big fan of his. I think the Burnley game was his first start in 19 months.
Yeah.
And he looked like he's never been away from the team. He was so calm and composed against some of the best attacking players in the world. Like I said, he had that massive intervention to potentially stop it from going to 3-2. And your thoughts on Lascelles, not only as his performance there, but also as a captain's role, knowing that Trippier is pretty much technically the club captain. But he handled that very, very well, you think. And the way he came back into that squad, like I say, I wouldn't have thought he'd been away for 90 months.
Yeah, I think it's amazing, because if you remember the year we got relegated the second time, there was that moment, I think, after the Southampton game where we got battered, I think 3-0 or 3-1, whatever it was, and we looked like we are going to go down. And he was the one who spoke to the media after the game. He was a young boy at the time. He wasn't a captain or anything like that, but he was the one who spoke up to say, this is not good enough. We need to be better than this. And he's sort of setting the standards from back then. And he's seen us, and he's been with us playing in the championship, being our team captain. And Rafa used to rave about him. He loved him. He thought he should be playing for England. Even that's how highly Rafa rated him back when he was our manager. And he sort of lost his way a little bit under Bruce, as most players did, and most players would, because he was an absolute clown. But it just shows the absolute character that this boy has, because he hasn't played, you're right, for so long. And to come in on the weekend, he did a good job against Burnley. But going, all due respect to Burnley, going from Burnley to Paris Saint-Germain and marking Kylian Mbappe is totally different kettle of fish. And he was outstanding this morning. I mean, he was commanding in the air. He was quick on the ground. He didn't get turned. He was physical when he needed to be physical. He was just a dominant centre half. And I mean, if he keeps playing like that, I mean, obviously Botman is our best defender and Botman's going to be playing, but it's going to be a very hard conversation to say to Lascelles, if he keeps playing like that, to say, hey, Big Botman's back. Shar's going to take your spot on the right, and you're going to go to the bench. I mean, Schar has been fantastic as well. It's a great problem to have, but if he plays like this, and I said it the other day after the Burnley game, I think I said it to Lee. I said, if he keeps playing like this, and Eddie turns Lascelles into some sort of Franz Beckenbauer 2.0 and superstar centre back, I mean, we might as well knight Eddie right now and just call him Sir Eddie Howe and just be done with it, because it'll just complete the trilogy, or there's been more than three, but it'll complete the three ridiculous turnarounds of players from Joe Linton to Miggy. If Lascelles is the next one, let's hope it is. It's amazing. But yeah, all credit to him, and he hasn't sucked up when he hasn't been playing. He's been there in the background, and look what he's done this morning. Sensational.
Yeah. Like I say, I don't think a single player put their foot wrong. However, Pope's kicking was a little bit wayward in the second half. It didn't really come to any harm, but Eddie was clearly frustrated. Thankfully, again, nothing came from it, but that's something maybe they've got to work on in training, or let somebody else take the kicks if he's getting a little bit frustrated, or just play out from the back, because we're very capable of doing that.
Yeah, I think it was more Pope was trying to waste time, so he was taking as much time as he could. He didn't want to play it short to invite pressure, but I think the thing that really pissed off Eddie was, I think it was 4 times in a row he just booted into the stands. He wasn't even getting it to any of our players, and the fact he did it 4 times was probably a bit too much from Eddie's perspective. And I mean, look, Pope's not the best goalkeeper with his feet. That's not his strength. He's more a fantastic shot stopper. He's a decent sweeper keeper. I mean, he had that one brain fade last year, which we won't talk about, but he's a decent sweeper keeper. He comes out and uses his head when he can, but kicking out from the back is not his strong suit. So, yeah, look, something to work on from him. And you don't want to be giving away possession as much as he was. It just so happened Paris weren't threatening with their ball, so it didn't matter that they had the ball. But you don't want to be openly just giving the ball away constantly from the goal kick. So, yeah, definitely I think something that Eddie will work on with him.
And I just want to touch on 2 parallels between the 2 clubs as well, because the way I seen that game, and if I was an outsider looking in, I would say Newcastle United, they're a fantastic squad of great players who make a fantastic team. Where PSG, they're a team of good individual players, but they don't play as a squad. They seem to play for each other. That's the way I seen it there. I don't know if you had the same type of thinking. It was just they didn't want to play for each other. They just wanted the glory for themselves, effectively, and also we kept Mbappe quiet. So that is also another bonus. On not many teams can say they can do that, to be honest. But I just think that the way our cohesive unit is, that's what every football club should aspire to be, rather than being just a team of individuals wanting the glory for themselves. And that just put us on the map of world football, showing what a cohesive unit we are. and how progressive we can be and how far we've come in such a short space of time. And that surely puts the European teams on noticing, hold on, they were going nowhere 2 years ago, bar the championship, and now they've just spanked PSG 4-1 at home. We've now got to take these seriously. And you think PSG actually gave us a little bit of disrespect?
Absolutely, they gave us disrespect. I think with the formation of, like I said, it was 4-2-4 with four genuine attackers who weren't going to do much defensive work. So they were sort of saying, look, we'll back ourselves, or we'll be able to play out from the back and play through whatever press that Newcastle have from the middle. And once we get the ball in the final third, they're not going to live with our four attackers. That was their thinking. It's weird with Paris because they do have a team of champions. There's a lot of superstar players in that team. There has been a lot of turnover as well. I mean, Luis Enrique is a new manager in Paris. There's been a lot of change compared to last season. They've obviously lost Neymar. They've lost Messi. A few others have left. So there's been a bit of change around that lineup, and they're probably still trying to find their best team. They haven't made the best start as well, we should say, in League 1. I think they've drawn 3 games already this season, and they had 0-0 draw against not a great team on the weekend. So they haven't been in great form themselves, and they probably thought Newcastle aren't much chop. Let's play our 4 attackers and let's sort of put on a show, so to speak, on a Champions League night. But like you said before, Craig, a team of champions is never going to beat a champion team. A champion team with everyone playing together on the same page is always going to beat a team of champions. And it's a credit to Eddie for what he's done in such a short space of time. And like you said, it's a massive show across all of Europe and across all of the world, really, that Newcastle United are back amongst the top clubs in Europe. And we may not be winning every game 4-1, and no one's saying we're going to go and win the Champions League now. Hopefully we do, but you probably say we're not ready for that just yet. But it's a statement, and it's a statement for not only opposition clubs and opposition players and fans, but prospective players who want to join our club and anyone who wants to invest in our club. They're thinking, geez, this team's going somewhere. I want to be a part of this journey. So yeah, it was a seismic moment, I think, for us. And yeah, it's really hard to put into words, as you said.
It really is. We'll get some of the full-time stats up now. I'm not going to dwell on these too much because, as we can see, 27% possession means nothing when you've won the game 4-1. So I'm not going to even bother about touching on that subject. Shots 12-11 in favour of us. Shots 8-2 again in favour of us. We only had the one corner of the game. They had 8, so significant advantage to them there. But again, they done nothing with them. 16 fouls for us, 9 for them. Now, just very briefly, what did you make of the ref in this game?
I was frustrated, let's be honest. I think he was very whistle happy at some moments. I think he was sort of reacting to the player's reaction, not the actual foul. And he definitely wasn't a ref that we're used to seeing in the Premier League. I mean, Premier League refs, they've been in the news. They're not great either. But
Yeah.
the way the game was being refed was a little bit different. The slightest contact was being called as a foul. So it was frustrating that we were on the end of a few. But I think that's the way we wanted to play. We wanted to play on the edge, not give them time and space, press them where we needed to press them. And yeah, the possession stat, to be honest, means nothing. We had 8 shots on target. They had 2. So we were the ones who were actually creating the chances at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So what I'm going to show you now, Dimi, may cause you get slightly excited, a little bit twitchy downstairs, because it is pretty much pornography. Newcastle United sitting top of Group F, otherwise known as Group of Death. How does that look for you? And does that still make you think you're in dreamland?
Ridiculous. That picture right there is ridiculous, because as soon as a draw happened, everyone said, "Oh, Newcastle stuffed." This is the group of death. They've got 3 European powerhouses. They've got Paris. They've got the semi-finalists from last year. They've got one of the biggest teams in Germany. There's no way they're getting out of this group. And we've gone and kept a clean sheet in Italy, and we've gone and put 4 past Paris Saint-Germain this morning, and it's ridiculous. I mean, look, there's a long way to go. We're not going to get overly ahead of ourselves because there's still 4 games to go in this group, but we've put ourselves in a magnificent position where if we can somehow sneak another couple of wins again at home against Dortmund and against Milan, 10 points will be well and truly enough, I think, to get us through to the next round. Probably don't even need 10 points, but we've got the next one at home. That's all that matters. And at home at the moment, I think we back ourselves to beat absolutely anybody in the world. So, yeah, let's enjoy that league table while we can until the next match day, which is in 3 or 4 weeks. And hopefully we'll extend our lead on the top of the table and there'll be another draw between the other two teams and we'll just keep plowing along. But, yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't think anyone, like we said before, I don't think anyone in their wildest dreams thought after 2 games we'll be sitting top on 4 points with one goal conceded and 4 goals for. It's ridiculous.
It's batshit, but that is technically Newcastle in a nutshell, isn't it? Expect the unexpected, which it's absolutely.
That's usually meant a negative thing in the past, but now we're starting to expect the positive things, which is fantastic to see.
It really is. So Newcastle United win the game 4-1. We are top of Group F. Eddie Howe should now be getting the keys to the city, should be getting knighthood. All the players getting a day off or 2, getting ready for the West Ham game at the weekend. But in terms of that game, that 90 minutes, how does that stack up on any other game you've witnessed in your time as a Newcastle United fan?
Yeah, so we were talking about this before. I was trying to think of a bigger moment. So for context, I started following Newcastle in 1998. So I was 6 years old then. I'm now 32 years old. So am I 32? Yeah, I think I'm 32. Anyway. And yeah, I can't, I was saying to you before, I can't remember a bigger result that I've sort of remembered and enjoyed live. I mean, there was the final game where we scored last minute, but the fact of where we've come in the last couple of years, and Champions League football was never on the radar for us for such a long time, and for majority of the time for me supporting this club, Champions League football has been not even a pipe dream. It's been not going to happen. It's sort of forget about that. We'll be happy enough to be in the Premier League, let alone playing Champions League. So it's, for me, this morning's result is the best result the best game, the best result, the moment, everything is the best I've seen in my lifetime. Obviously, it's slim pickings because we haven't won anything, and I'd like to see this game get bettered many times this season. But up until now, for me, it's the biggest moment, the biggest game, and in a Champions League match against arguably the best player in the world, for me, it's the top.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember games from the early 90s. My very first game was Mickey Quinn's home debut, where he scored 5 goals on his debut. I very vaguely remember that, but lucky enough to have seen the Man United 5-0 home win back in the Entertainers era. There's a game against Feyenoord in the Champions League when Bellamy pops up right at the death to win it on that one there. There is the game against Inter Milan as well. Games of even recent memory, we've got the thrashing of Spurs, 6-1, that type of thing. This game goes down in folklore for me in terms of how it stacks up like that. And the only other game where I can think of, and it might be because I was there, where my emotions probably got the better of me, was the semi-final against Spurs at Old Trafford, where we win 2-0, and Shearer just hits that ridiculous slice shot across Ian Walker's goal, puts it in the top corner, and that just to me signified what this club is about. Moments like that where you can remember 20 years ago, 30 years ago, how many it is going to be from now, you'll remember where you were when you seen this game. And it just going to be living in the memory of every current fan, every future fan who watches this game back on replay or whatever, and thinking, you know what, this club is definitely going somewhere. We've had some incredible memories through the years, whether it be domestic, whether it be in overseas tournaments or anything like that, Champions League, Europa League, or even the FA Cup, League Cup, that sort of thing. But this game is definitely up there with the best of the best. Again, Barca 3-2, Tino getting his hat-trick. That is certainly up there as well. There's too many memories to choose from, but this has to be up there. And I can't imagine any fan would disagree with that either, to be honest, because 2 years ago, again, we talked about this just before we came on air, we played that game against Wolves where we lost 2-1. And I think everybody was thinking, you know what, just relegate us now. Just do it.
Yeah.
We had already accepted our fate that we were going down to the Championship and we were going to stay there for a very, very long time. Little did we know a few days later, maybe a week or so, that we would become potentially on our way to becoming a football powerhouse in terms of financial clout. Beating PSG 4-1 in the Champions League. We've just knocked Man City out of the League Cup the last week or so as well. So these last 10 days have actually been a bit of a roller coaster for the club. It's been incredible, but it's a roller coaster that's keep going up, up, and up. And hopefully you just continue on that trajectory. And it's just going to be absolutely epic. So I can't really quantify that game in words, but what I can say is I am incredibly proud of this little club that we support because we've been through the thick and thin, and the good times, they were so far apart. But now, week after week after week, these good times are just rolling on to another and another. And it's just so good to see. And I don't know about you, but I can't imagine it getting much better than that apart from winning a trophy.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you summed up that a word before. You said we're now proud, and that's the word for me. It's for so long we haven't been able to say that we're proud of the team and the club because of what the club stood for before the ownership changed and before we sort of started seeing the light in terms of where we could go. And the fact now we can watch the club every week and we know what we're going to get. We know what Eddie's team was going to bring out, and win, lose or draw. It's been a lot more winning than losing or drawing, but win, lose or draw, we know the effort. We know everything, structure, commitment is all going to be there. So it's something we can't ever take for granted, I think, because we've seen a lot of rubbish and we've seen a lot of poor teams, poor managers. We've seen a couple of relegations in the last 15 years. So we don't want to ever go back to those moments, but they're an important tool to sort of remember how far we've come from, and we can never forget how far we have come already in such a short space of time under Eddie. And like you said, long may it continue. Let's keep the trajectory going forward, and hopefully this season there'll be many more nights like tonight, and hopefully a trophy that we can take home and savor as much as we're savoring a match day 2 win like we are now.
Yeah, I mean, when you've been as low as we have as a club, those highs taste even sweeter, don't they?
Exactly right. I mean, it's all good. I mean, here you're born and bred Geordie, Craigo, so you're probably a little bit different to me. I've got zero connection to the club other than that I bleed and care about it more than anything else. And I'm on the other side of the world, got no Newcastle heritage, zero. But the fact now that we can sort of expect good things to come from our club, it's something we can't take for granted, and it's a club we're proud of now. And yeah, you're not going to wipe the smile off my face. I'm sure the same with you and all the fans. We are forever now going to be keeping our head high, following this club, and hopefully there's going to be a few more statues like there is that one behind you now. Hopefully a few more statues of the current staff after a few trophies.
Yeah, and I'm all for the ride. I'm well on board this journey, and bring on Dortmund, I say, because they're going to be shitting themselves after watching that
Yep.
performance, to be honest. But we've got to get past West Ham first. We were supposed to be maybe tagging on a West Ham preview, but we're pretty much out of time. We may or may not do a standalone West Ham preview pod. Chances are probably not. So we will probably see you on the review show of that, which will be Monday for us. But we're now going off to watch the match again on replay. We are going to go and savor all 4 goals. We are going to go on social media, brag about it, because Eddie's Champions League tabletop and mags are here to stay, and we are here to take over. Come on, the mags. I'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your night, Dimi. Thanks to everybody who has watched. Thanks to everybody who's listened. Please leave a comment down below of what you thought of that game, where it ranks in terms of your top Newcastle United all-time games, and let us know what your prediction is for where you think we'll finish in the table. Now we've picked up our first 3 points. We're going to go. I'll catch you on the next one, Dimi, and we will probably see everybody on the West Ham review show now. Have a good night, mate, and enjoy watching the replay again.
Thanks, Craigie.